Well, there you go. Hello, folks. It's Radio FM 88 Australia, and today we've switched the hemispheres. So that's me sitting on top, and our friends from the UK are down below. So we could say that we're flat earthers, but no, we're not taking that game. We're actually Radio FM 88, and our co-host Andrena is below me this time on the totem pole, and she's got a really fantastic guest. We've been talking off air, unearthed a very interesting guy who's showing his passion, dreaming the new dream. You don't realize just how many gifts humanity's got. We've just got to allow them to come to the surface. So, Andrena, take it away.
Hi, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Dreaming the New Dream, to our old listeners and any new ones that are joining us. Today, we are on the eve of the portal of the 11/11. So today's the 10th of the 11th. And it's also a number 9 day. So you know how I love my numbers. So some completion to be doing today. Anyway, it's my great pleasure, or our great pleasure, to welcome Steve Cloudsong on the show, who I've seen over the years at the Healing Festival. And I've seen him play flute. And I've spoken to him about coming to do some workshops down here because I've been wanting a flute for a long, long time. And I still haven't got one. But it's in the queue somewhere. So Steve came and said hello Sunday, and we had a chat. And so it's great pleasure that he's going to play some flute, he's going to play some handpans, but he's going to share his journey of how he was drawn to the Native American as a young boy. So without further ado, welcome, Steve, and it's lovely to have you on the show.
Lovely to be here.
And would you love to share how you started in life and what drew you into the Native American ways?
What drew me to Native American ways? It's all comes from child, really, from watching all the TV and the movies and the Hollywood movies. But there was something about it that I liked, and it's all to do with nature-based. They followed the sun, basically, and followed the seasons. Everything they did, there was a reason to it. They just didn't do things willy-nilly. Even their language, I think their language is so passionate when they talk as well. There's not a word wasted. It's one of the phrases I like. I think it was, I don't quote me on this, but it might be Red Cloud that said, white man says lots and says nothing. I really, really like that because I do. I can go off the track and I can talk for England. But their poetical language is amazing. And they made these flutes thousands of years ago. So my interest in the flute came a lot later. I was more interested in learning about all their history, what's happened to them, who's who, what's what. America's such a huge country as well. So I got to know the history quite well, and I'm forever learning about the history. There's so much to learn, and so many dates to remember, so many phrases and things. So I do collect as much as possible the old books to read when you can find them. So from there, years went by. I was sort of off the linear track, as I would call it. You could sort of say I went wayward, as we all do things. But then a lot later on in my life, I was interested, and I suddenly saw this shop with all this Native American stuff in it. And this is quite a long time ago now, 20 years or so. And it was gorgeous. Their artwork is amazing. Obviously studied it and looked at all the books. Their turquoise being the sacred stone, and coral, and how seed beads came about, and the pony beads and crow beads, funny of which you can't actually buy in a bead shop. You have to particularly order these 3 types. So from there, I saw this craft and I thought I could make this. And somebody was asking me, I really like that, but I can't afford it. And this is how it happened years and years ago. And I just turned around and said, I'll make that for you if you like. I didn't have a clue, but I just said I'd make it. So I did. And I found myself just naturally making this craft, having the artistic eye for color, and obviously all the visions I've got in my head as well. And it just expanded from there. People were I was giving the craft away because I can. It's mine. I own it. I made it. So I can do whatever I like with it. So I gave it away. And what was happening with people were giving me trade. First of all, it started with the bottles of wine, because I just made a joke and said, "Oh, just buy me a bottle of wine. That'd be fine." But it accumulated quite a lot years ago, where I had a large double wardrobe in my bedroom, and it started to get too full of wine. There's no way I could drink this wine. So then time went on, and you get sidetracked, and you move house and things like that, just general life. And then it got to a point where I couldn't accept any more wine. So I just said, well, just get me a pack of dry goods. So I remember coming home from a late shift, and on my front doorstep there was a pack of dry goods, and someone had been shopping, and that was the trade. That was the trade-off of me doing things. I just loved it. And over time, it just got bigger and bigger, really. So I had to give up sort of the day jobs and concentrate on one thing. So I started making... Pardon?
They're amazing. They look lovely. I take it that's the one around your neck is one you've made as well.
This is one of my first chokers. Yeah, one of the first ones. I can't make enough of it, to be honest. There isn't one thing that I've ever duplicated in all the craft I've made. They're all one-offs, and the designs just sort of come naturally with the color. You find out what there is. But I love making the bespoke items, really. That there is real coral. I source it, so I don't buy it new or anything like that, because you're adding to that chain of people getting coral. So it's got to be way before the 1970s, old necklaces and vintage stuff like that, really. It's the same with my furs. I use the real furs, the leather and the deer skin from the States. I use the wolf fur, coyote. And people were giving me coats as trade, 1960s, 50s coats, where I cut them up and actually honor the animal. Instead of it being on someone's back, I'd actually honor the animal or make something from it. That's how that came about, really. So me learning the flute, I walked into a shop in Glastonbury. It's not there now, sadly. And I looked up right in the gods, he had shelving right up high, and there was this tiny little flute. Didn't know I was going to play. I had no intention of playing at all. I'm not a musician. I don't read music. That's the love of these flutes, because they're emotional tools. I'm a very emotional person, as in I can feel so much. And I've had to distinguish between my own emotions and other people's emotions. I've always thought they were mine years and years ago. So you can imagine the turmoil growing up as a small child, teenager, adulthood, feeling emotions that weren't actually yours, but thinking they were. So anyway, I found this little tiny flute. We got it down, and the shopkeeper didn't even know it was there. So straight away, I just blew into it and recognized the sound. Don't ask me how or why. I just recognized the sound as that's what I was looking for. But I wasn't, if you understand that.
Yeah.
I just knew I had to have it. So we parted with some cash. I came home and I sat on the sofa and I just doodled. I use the word doodling when I teach, not practice, because practice is a negative word. So we doodle with it, because that's what you do with the flute. You doodle, whether you play one note and mess about with the technique, or play the whole flute. So I sat on the sofa for about a week, and just practiced, doodle, there we go. Doodled on one note. I thought, well, if I can do all this on one note, what can I do on all five? You should be able to do everything on all five. So I did. So then it was all about this here. This is a percussive instrument. The way I'm talking to you now, my intonation, my voice is going up and down, up and down. My breath work is different. My voice is different as you push the breath out. It's exactly the same with the flute. You have to really use that imagination of either seeing or with eyes open, looking at something, whether it's a tree, a bush, a bird, a human. It doesn't really matter, but you've really got to feel what you're playing. So what I do is I teach all the techniques that I've learned. And what's really most importantly is the breath work. Because without the breath work, I wouldn't be able to even talk to you now. So I was playing in a little stall at a powwow over here in England, and not many people were coming into the stall. So I thought, I'll sit and play my flute. Back then, I'd shut my eyes. It was that thing. If I shut my eyes, no one can see me. So I play. Because I haven't set out to do anything of what I do. It's the public that have encouraged me and told me I should be doing this, I should be doing that. So I was playing this little flute, and people then were starting to come into the stall, and then I'd open my eyes and there was people sitting on the floor, and then I'd shut my eyes again thinking, oh dear me, what's going on here? And then more and more people were coming in, to the point where my tent that I had was full up and people at the back were standing up. But there was one particular gentleman I remember, he was ever so tall, and he was looking over the crowd and watching what was going on. He was Native American, he was a Lakota. And afterwards, he came up to me and asked me, where did I learn to play? Who taught me? So I told him I did. I sat on the sofa for a week and learned how to play. And he gave me the most amazing compliment. And by this time, my eyes have welled up. I mean, I'm looking up at this gentleman, and he said, I play the flute, and I've been coming to the powwows for about 16 years. And he said, I've never heard anyone play the flute like you. I thought it was a professional person playing. So that was a massive compliment. Absolutely. So he encouraged me. He just sort of said, are you going on the open mic? And of course I refused. No.
Is he just frozen, is he?
Looks like it.
Yeah.
He'd already put my name down to play in the evening, unbeknown to me. I was telling a few friends, I've been asked to go on the open mic. And they encouraged me, really. You should, your music is so soulful. So I then sort of jumped in the deep end and said, okay, I'll do it. And what I experienced for the first time was something incredible, absolutely incredible. I had to sit down because my legs were really, really shaking. There was about 300 people in the audience in this barn. And I picked up this flute, and as soon as I played one note, I could hear a pin drop. This is the flute I actually was playing. And this has now become my healing flute because of the things that it does and things I can make it do. So I was playing this tune, and then I stopped, and everyone started clapping, and it nearly knocked me off my seat. It was almost, I could just feel this immense power on my chest, as if somebody was just literally pulling my chair backwards and I was going to fall off my chair. So I was really lucky that I was sitting down and not standing up, because my knees were doing this, you know. So I didn't know what to do. And the first thing he said was, I looked at the other guys doing the sound and I said, have I got time for another one? And I asked the audience, do you want another one? And they all said yes. So they encouraged me to pick up another flute, and I played 2 songs. But afterwards, this guy came up to me, and he was quite forceful in the way. It was a lovely compliment again. And by the time he'd finished what he said, and I'll tell you in a minute, I was in full flow. I'd just come off from the chair playing his emotional tools. I was in full flow, because what he said to me, he pointed to my chest, to my heart, and said, don't let anyone tell you you're not Native American. He says, your heart is Native American. And I'll never forget it. And I can actually picture it now in my head when he was doing it. I was speechless, absolutely speechless. I just said, thank you very much. And he said, I want to see a CD out of you by next year. And with that, I just sort of scoffed and laughed, really. But he was definitely serious. He was so serious about it. He said, people are going to want to take you home. He said, they can't take you home. So I'd like to see a CD out of you by next year. So again, he gave me that encouragement. Me ever thinking that I'd go into a music studio and play this music, this lovely music, was never on my mind. It's amazing where life can take you once you're on your linear path, once you've come back to that path that is set out for you and has things along the way for you to accept if you wish to. But it's all about manifesting as well, but that's another thing I can talk about. So I set out and I did my first CD, and it was called The Calling. I didn't realize at the time what that word actually meant. I didn't really think about it. It was just a calling for me to the flute, but it was so apt. So I went back the following year and I gave him this CD, and he was really
good on you.
Yeah, it was really good. And you don't tend to listen to your own music because you can play it. But I have listened to that first one, I think recently, because I've been sorting out my music, and it's incredible where it takes you visually in your head. I can remember every track as if it was yesterday when I hear the music. I couldn't do it now, but when I hear the music. So that's how I became a flute player. How I became to teach it was I was in a shop in Glastonbury. Can I name the shop?
Yeah, of course.
It's the biggest shop in Glastonbury. It's Yin Yang.
Yin Yang.
And they helped me in a way where I went in and I was selling the CDs there. So I would sit on the steps as you go up to the therapy rooms, and I just sit and play the flute in my little microphone, and it would bring people in. So instead of her having a CD being played over the shop of someone else's flute music, she had live music. And what was happening is people were coming in and sitting on the floor by the steps, and it was sort of coming out towards the front door, and it was getting a bit too much, really. But again, it just brought people in. And I suppose it's like a fire, isn't it? That as soon as you see a fire and those flames, flickering, you're drawn to it, you're pulled to it. So it was one day she came up to me and she said, how would you like to teach it? Again, I was, what? Yeah, if you think you could get some people. And so she told me how much, and I sort of went, gulp, really? And then within the next 48 hours, she'd got me 4 lessons, from the tourist people coming in and wanting to buy a flute. And there was somebody there that would teach them how to play. Because it is, I would say, it is easy to play. It depends how complicated you want to make it. Whether you play just flat notes, you've still got that auditory sound. So when you play these, everyone is drawn to them, but being able to just breathe down it and hear that soft, haunting sound, but you're the one that's actually playing it, and you've got the breath control going on, which is, again, meditative if you've done breath work. So you're playing it and you've got the breath work and you're hearing it. It can't do anything but relax you. It can't do anything that completely, the vibrational sound over it, relax your whole body when you play. So when you play to someone, it's even more powerful. So I will connect with that person in an energy sense, in what they're vibrating, because we're all vibrating, whatever it is. And it's just having that belief now, what I can see, what I can feel is not necessarily mine. And the music then takes over. So I'll have a format in my head of how I'm going to break down any vibration that's there, so my music can weave in to them. And then flute will then play them. Because I know how to, I will change the different sounds with the technique, designating the feeling from them. So it becomes then one-to-one, very personal for them. And I can change their feeling as well. I can actually change it if they're there long enough. The same with the handpans. I can change that vibration. I can knock it out, out of kilter. If something's just hovering around people for such a long time, I can knock it out and get rid of it. People have said to me that they feel different afterwards, or even the next day. You'll go to sleep and your brain, your subconscious brain, will be hearing this music and the notes from the handpan and work out things in your head through the day. So you could wake up, if you've had quite a 30-minute session on the handpan with me, you could wake up in the morning and feel really, really high and elated, because you've woken up on a new day. You've woken up with something that's been bashed away with sound. And sound vibrations are very, very strong, extremely strong. But a lot of people still won't accept that or feel it. And I've had people like that as well. And it's a lot harder to get through this brick wall sometimes.
Definitely. Can I ask a question? Because I'm drawn to the drone, and I don't know why, but whenever I've gone and had a little what was the word, doodle with a flute, and it's certainly a doodle, I can tell you. I really love to get a drone one at some point. So what is the difference? Why would that be calling me more so than a single flute?
I think there you'd have to look back at your history, and what your past lives as well, to find out what you're drawn to. It's the same when you're choosing a flute, what sound you're drawn to. Now, it's quite common, F, G's, E's, quite common as in our voices. So over the years of teaching and getting people to buy flutes, it's been like a study of mine. Not that I've written it all down, I just log it in here. I have many, many files and folders in here where we are attracted to our own voice, for instance. So we will go for that flute that we're attracted to, we feel comfortable with, because we're used to hearing our own voices all the time. So when people say, "Oh, you talk a lot, you like the sound of your own voice," maybe I do. But it's relaxing. There's nothing wrong with that. Even in relationships, we can be attracted to that person because the sound of their voice is very similar to ours, and likewise as well. So sound plays a big part in a lot of things, let alone nature. Nature is full of sound. And I can interpret nature through different styles of flutes. and techniques.
Mm.
Yeah, it's amazing. You're talking about the flute, but the didgeridoo and the saxophone and the flute just have such a spell on the human race, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I love the sax. I absolutely love the saxophone. Again, you get a good player that can really play that. It's just an emotional tool, and you can tell the difference between somebody playing it really emotional and then just somebody reading music.
Yeah.
There is a complete difference to it. You have all these crotchets and quavers, and they're all joined together in 3-4 rhythms and beats, but there's nothing written in it saying what type of emotion those crotchets and quavers are. But you have to add that emotion to that sound, whether it's a high pitch, low pitch, middle pitch. It's just coming from here. If you can come from here and not worry about that rhythm or anything like that, anyone can play, and that's the beauty of it. I've taught so many people in quite a few countries, including Australia, and my craft goes to Australia as well, quite a lot, and mainly America. My craft goes to, which is a massive high honor. I've actually had Native Americans buy my craft, and then they tell me what they're going to use it for. One was a sun dance. The beater was going to be used at his first sun dance when he was 18. That's incredible. One was going to use it at the ceremony of Wounded Knee, and they write to me and tell me this. I mean, the honor there of having something that I've made and gone across, and it's going to be put in the hands of a Native American guy that wants to honor that is remarkable. It really is. Really, I still get stunned, blown away by it.
I went to a powwow when I was in America about 2011. I went with a friend who's part Cherokee, and it was the most amazing experience. I absolutely loved it. And I know I've got past lives as a Red Indian or Native American Indian, and I know that all that way really speaks to me. So I know somewhere down the track.
The correct terminology is, we don't say the RED word. It's First Nation people.
First Nation. Right. Okay. Thank you.
Hey, brother, what's these? I've got put up on the screen for you.
It's like them little magnifying glasses,
Where you get bubble, you get some dishwasher liquid in it and make.
Blow bubbles. They're Apache hoop beaters. They're small ones, but I came across films and books, and they were playing drums with hoop beaters.
Really?
I made some many years ago, and they all went on the same day. As soon as they were out there, they all went, because no one had actually seen them. So I had some stuff, and I put together. All my stuff it's the detail. My forte is detail, and they sound amazing on the drum. And they're really, really light. They're not that big. They're weighted at the front with the metal hoop, wrapped in deer skin and elk skin. And then my artwork and the beadwork goes around the edges for the detail. And a lot of people don't know what they are, and they're Apache hoop beaters.
Oh, there you go. So anyway, are you going to embrace this with a beautiful sound?
Okay, bear with me.
So what flute is that? Is that a particular note, that one, or?
It's E minor. It's made of cedar. Only my breath goes into the flute, this one. I don't hand it out for people to play and have a go. So my breath is there isn't any other breath.
Right.
Because it's mine, it's part of me. But I found this guy that makes these flutes. I wanted to go and meet him, but he wouldn't. He said no, he doesn't do people. I can see why. But he made this amazing flute. I didn't even hear it. He just sent it to me. He made it for me, and it's so light. I mean, it looks really big, doesn't it? You know,
It
but
does.
it's incredibly light. It's quite thin, but it's cedar. But it does things that other flutes don't do.
Right. Take it away, boy.
Here we go.
Oh, magic. I could feel straight away as the flute was going, I could feel shivers and tingles going right through my body. But like you, I'm sensitive to energies, and I could just really feel that. That was beautiful.
I was, yeah. I think my eyes are a bit wet there.
No, that was lovely.
Thank you.
Oh, right.
Off air, we're discussing how you came with the name Cloudsong.
Oh yeah, that's a lovely story to share.
Mm.
Yeah, it's, as I said, I doodled away for a week, roughly a week on the sofa, getting to know all the techniques, getting to know what this was about as well. This is an amazing percussive instrument. And slowly but surely, I was coming up with riffs and patterns and number patterns on the flute. For me, it is about numbers. And slowly but surely, the music that I was playing was getting longer and longer and longer and longer, to the point where I was playing 2 or 3 minutes at a time, just experimenting with the sound and breath work. And I had my eyes shut, even though I was in the room on my own. I still had my eyes shut, visualizing, of course, because when you shut your eyes, you then gain 85% of all your senses by shutting your eyes. So that I did. And then I could hear this amazing, haunting, melodic sound, and not realizing it was me. So when that realization happened, when I'm sitting there, I stopped. I suddenly realized this is me, and I stopped. And the first thing that came out of my mouth was, oh my God, that sounded like a cloud song. Bang.
Really?
That was it. And from there, I just said, that's my name. Cloudsong, that's my name. And it just stuck ever since. So I am now the Cloud Song, because that to me was what I was playing. I was playing the song of the cloud. Yeah.
Yeah. So can we backtrack? Have you traced your ancestry to see if your lineage goes back to the American civilization?
No, I haven't. That's an interesting question. I might write that down actually and find out. I know a few years ago, I do look like somebody. A few years ago, I'd had some Reiki. I'd never had that before at all. I didn't really understand it. Again, it is vibrational for that person, but for me, I'm emitting it all the time. So it's my radar's going out all the time, and then I'll get some emotions back from it. Whatever, I can pass people in the street and I can feel that. So when I had this Reiki with this lady, she gave me crystal Reiki. So she put all these crystals around me on the bed and gave me this Reiki. And it was the only thing I can describe it to, I suppose. I went on a visual trip, and it wasn't very nice at the time. I can't really remember if anything I was going through emotional at the time, or it's probably about 5 years ago, and I drifted off. I can very easily drift off and just fly and go here, there, and everywhere. So it was when I woke up from it, she then said to me, you were having convulsions. She said you were shaking, but I didn't feel any of that at all. I thought I was just asleep. So, but the visions that I had, the beginning of the vision I had wasn't very pleasant. So I woke up from it and I just thought, oh, it was a bad dream. It evoked this bad dream. And I told her about it, and she said you were at the beginning of going on some type of journey. So she gave me another 3 sessions after that, and by the end of it, I got the full story, and I got a date, a battle, a person's face, Cheyenne dog soldiers, and that was it. And it was 1864. I think it was 1864. I was a small child, basically. I'd put all these stories together because when I had like the second and third Reiki session, I didn't really want to go back where I was, but I had to. I had to go back there and find out what was going on, because I was really, really intrigued of how this can happen. How can this person giving me this Reiki that I didn't really know much about? I was new to it, even though it had been around for years, and with the crystal energy as well. How I could go into this film really in my head. It wasn't very pleasant. So the story is 1864 Cheyenne dog soldier. That's basically the information I got. So I put in the screen on the laptop and the computer, I put in Cheyenne dog soldier 1864. And what came up was a gentleman called Roman Nose and his wife. And the story, it's only a very short paragraph of his story. I haven't found any books on him at all, but at least he's up there. And his story was exactly what my visions were. And I was a young boy, a young Native American boy, and watching his village get massacred because they were out hunting. So all the warriors were out hunting, and apparently they'd waited for them to do that so they could go in and massacre the village. I know that sounds that's just what I saw. But then there was this massive horse coming up to me, and all of a sudden I'd switched from being a small child looking up at this great big horse with a Native American guy on it thinking he's going to run me over in a horse, to being on the horse, looking down at the child. And that was very odd. That was extremely odd. But I felt everything, absolutely everything, as if I was really there. So my imagination and subconscious had taken me really deep into it. It wasn't nice. And he went on the rampage, basically. He did what he set out to do. And the things that I did while I was asleep weren't pleasant at all. It was quite horrific. I did things that were very nasty. I'm not even gonna put the words out there. Just use your own imagination. So that's when I woke up from that fourth one. I was crying, I was sweating, and she said she'd never done anything like it, where my body was actually, shaking and bouncing up and down and twitching, and because I was basically in battle. I'd gone in battle, and so I looked it all up. And his name is Roman Nose. And when you look at him, another 15 years on, I'll probably look like him. He's got all the creases where the creases are, and not to be funny, I mean that is a Roman nose, isn't it? It's like
So that's your email address, yeah?
Pardon?
That's your email address, Roman Nose.
That's right, yeah. So I call on him when I play the flute in public. I call on him a lot, and he helps me play the flute. And I was told that it's his way of putting the wrongs that he did. So I call on him basically as support, especially if you're going to go on stage or anything like that, because I didn't set out to go on stage, and it's the most scary thing you can possibly do. But when you start playing the flute, I'm someone else. I'm completely someone else.
Yeah, but you're the flute, aren't you?
Yeah, I am the flute. And I'm just a conduit to the emotions that I'm feeling, and I translate them into sound, really. And
it brings up different emotions for different, because I saw Andrew put a message up about, was the flute meant to feel sad or something? I'm not quite sure what it said now, but obviously when we were listening to your playing just now, it would have brought up different emotions for different people.
Remember, I was just playing off the cuff there, because I don't have anyone here. I don't have any other emotions in here, in the room. But different key flutes will promote different emotions, and I will change the key accordingly if I'm actually doing a one-to-one with anybody. But I don't go out and profess to do that. It just happens. Everything I've done has just happened. And I feel it's right. The people I've met along the way, I met some amazing people along the way. How I've helped, I hope, lots of people in coming out of themselves, giving them confidence, because I was there too. I was in that place of confidence of what's happening in the world and how difficult it is, and for all my life. So I come from a viewpoint of I was there once. I was a beginner too. So I know how to teach them what they're going to feel, the difficulties they might get, whether they're left or right-handed. It is interesting. It really is interesting. But to get someone to play and watch their whole mannerisms and body change when they play. Over the years, I've had people WhatsApp me little messages of them playing, and they've gone on holiday and taken the flute, or they're somewhere where there's good acoustics and they've played, and then they send me a little minute clip of what they're playing. And it's really nice to watch them come out of themselves and learn. So yeah, I can't stress enough the beauty of these flutes.
So are you going to give us a little oodle of doodles on that one?
You can. This is a D flute.
Right.
Hey, before you go any further, hey, years ago we had a guy called Dave Phillips, and he's Australia's #1 engram teacher, philosopher, mentor. And engrams is really interesting about the study of humanity and the 9 different aspects. And when we're talking about, you just mentioned about you do it one-on-one. And listening to David, he was saying one-on-one, but then he took it to another level, and that's why I wanted to bring the subject up with yourself. I said, excuse me, what's the engram for Australia? And he said it's a 6, which is got plan B, I say plan A, plan B, plan C, and they don't take too kindly to authority and the long-term strategic thinkers. I said, okay, what's America? Oh, 3, all show, no substance. Now, what point I'm making here is it possible now that you're playing, you said you haven't got anyone in the room, but you actually are playing, and is it possible that you can actually find the note for each country? Because when you look on the ECG or ERG, whatever, when the person's on the heart monitor and they go do 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 do, sometimes it just looks like when a conductor with a baton is doing his things like this, and he goes a peak and then drops and he goes back. And when you start looking, if you have a cutaway version of a country, like for example, if you look at Australia and you come across from the Tasman Sea and then you go across flat and then you go up on the plateau and then you come down and flat and then you go boom, boom, and you're off. And you go to New Zealand, you come straight and up, boom, down. And you look at your UK and you come in from the East Coast and you come across and hit the Pennines and then you drop down, you're off again. So a little quick stroke. Now I'm just wondering if that represents a key, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, sharp or flat. And I just wondered, is there a potential that when you're playing to the audience, you're actually playing to the harmonic tone of that country? That makes sense.
I couldn't actually say that about that country, but that makes perfect sense to people resonating their energy, their vibration in that way, where I could possibly see it or feel it. Yeah, I can see what you mean, but I don't know. I don't know about that. I've never actually thought about that. That's something I will think about.
Because we had a guy.
The idea is you have to send me up in space, really, with my flute. Then I could look at the countries and then choose a flute for that particular country. You know.
Well, I was told years ago that every country was a classroom, and that's why there's a different frequency and different harmonic tone. You know, so even though we're on 4/4 common time and we're on a different bloody harmonic tone as to what we should be on, I've just thrown it out there. That's all.
Well, you're talking about frequencies. This flute here, the lady who makes these flutes, red kite flutes, this little block here is the key, because this is how they work. The air comes into this chamber, up the first hole, underneath that block that compresses the sound and the air, and over the second hole, just like you would a bottle. But with this little block, with those bits here, from a 440 megahertz flute, it's now a 432.
Oh, right.
Just by putting that on it, it's changed it into a 432 megahertz. So it's a lot softer to the ears instead of the 440 resonating in the brain, which is a lot harsher. You need to listen to quite a few of them to be able to go, that's a 432, because you'll hear it on the ears is a lot softer. And I'll demonstrate with this one. Let's see. Oh, I know what I'll do. I've got a gorgeous white orchid in front of me with amazing, great big green leaves. It's been flowering for months and months and months. So I'm going to play to that.
Lovely. Lovely.
Yeah. And that's 4-3-2, yeah?
That's a 4-3-2, yeah.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
by doing that block.
I tell you what, it's really impressionable on me to listen to you, because we were taken to school and everybody got recorders.
Oh, I was going to say that.
It does you to death, doesn't it? Recorders.
It's a shame they
Black
weren't all
sheep or
given little
bloody-
flutes.
Yeah. It was a bow black sheep, or was it blackbird? I can't remember it was.
Yeah.
Frere Jacka, wasn't it? Frere Jacka.
Oh, I
Oh,
don't know.
God.
Yeah.
I tell you, I
It's really-
prefer
yeah.
out of the two. I love the first one more than the second one. You know, if I was going to ask you to play again, I would pass on the second one, but I would say I'd definitely play the first one again.
Mm.
So anyway, you've got your handpan there. How did the handpans come into play?
The handpan. I went to a festival when I first discovered and found a handpan, a hang. Then it's called a hang, the originals. It was in 2005 festival, and there's this guy in the tent playing this amazing melodic instrument. So I asked him, you know, could I have a go? Because then I was African drumming. I was teaching African drumming. So I'm quite quick fingered. And he said, yeah. So I just sat down, he put it on my lap, and I was all over it like a rash, and all these notes on there. So all the combinations of rhythms and stuff I had in my head, I all of a sudden had 9 notes to play with. So it was fascinating. But how to get the handpan, or how to get one of the hangs back then, was really, really difficult to get. You had to go to Sweden, you had to camp outside Felix's house, and I couldn't really do that or warrant that really. And plus the fact there were quite a few hundred pounds, I couldn't really warrant all that as well. So, and then time went on, forgot all about it. And while I was African drumming, afterwards, I went down with the guys, you know, to our local, you know, when I used to live in Glastonbury. And there was this couple sitting next to me, and we're chatting away, and they were from Sweden. And I gave them an introduction and said, well, why didn't you come up to my workshop on the Sunday? I was holding a workshop, a big one. And they said, no, we can't. I said, come up as my guests, you know, have some fun on the drum. And they said, we can't, we've got to go home on the Sunday. I said, oh, that's a shame, you know. And then his wife turned around and said, have you heard of a hang? So my jaw dropped, and I thought, yes, I have heard of one. I said, I can't afford one. I said, you know, I know exactly what they are. And she said, I've got one, she said, and I just can't get on with it. And it's just sat in our basement. I was gobsmacked at this, you know. She said, we're having some decorating work and blah, blah, blah. And it's just sat in the basement. She said, we come to Glastonbury every year for 2 weeks for the last 9 years. She said, I think the hang belongs to you. I could not believe my ears.
No, I bet.
And there was this other guy standing next to them. I didn't know him. And I just looked at him and said, did you hear that? And he said, yes, I did. I went, oh, I'm glad you heard it. I said, he hadn't got a clue what I was talking about or anything. And he said, yes, I did hear that. So I wish I could remember her name. Marianne, her name is. And she said, if you send me your address, she said, when we get home, you email me and I will send it to you through the post. I'm just asking you to pay for the postage. I went, absolutely. Yeah, I could not believe my luck, you know, and I thought, well, that's probably why I've never won a raffle. They've all accumulated, you know, through my life to get this handpan, this hang. But not only that, when it arrived, and I went and collected it because I'd just come back from holiday and there was a card on the front doorstep saying, you know, there's a parcel waiting for you at Bristol. So I drove all the way to Bristol. I knew what it was going to be. But remarkably, when I opened it and played it, it was exactly the same key handpan or hang as the one I played in 2005.
Wow.
It was one of the originals. So with this, I set out to get to know it really, really well. And I started playing with my fingertips here, not the flats of the fingers. I was actually playing with the fingertips. But being an African drummer, I could do that. So there wasn't many people playing with the fingertips because it promotes a softer sound than playing with these tips here. You just hear the hammers of the fingers. So I just started to play, and again, it's taken me to amazing places, art galleries, book signings. I've sat at the back and played, and it seems to, because it's a metal instrument, it cuts through the air, and you can hear it a long way away because it's a metal instrument. But again, really, really melodic. So I then set about making a CD. I made a CD of it, and what I did was, that's my meditation CD. That took me a long time to put together because it just had to be right. I needed it to be completely different than what's out there. There's the only tech I use, because I don't like to use tech in my music. You come to watch me play live. I play live. Is the C in the background, and that's the Dorset C that I went to record, and that's on the looper in the beginning of that CD. But I play there the 7 chakra sounds of the flute and 3 handpans, and now I've got the 3 handpans. But it's so vibrational for me. I can lose myself. So I'm very aware that I'm on the radio. I'm very aware that I'm going to play it soon, but it draws you in. Because I'm sitting right up against it. I'm getting the full vibration straight into me. So what happened when I was demonstrating the sound at festivals, people were drawn to it, just like the flute. And I thought, this is odd. So I wanted people to try and understand where I'm coming from when I play it and what happens to me when I play it. I completely get drawn in. I forget what's around me. I forget where I am. And then it's like it just plays itself. It just plays itself, just a bit like the flutes. So again, it's that emotional sound. It's that emotion within me that comes out through my hands, really. So how it happened was, I thought, how can I get this across to people? Or can they feel what I'm feeling? Is it taking people where I'm going with it? Because it's so ethereal. It's just, I'm off. I'm just completely off. And I can look down at the handpan when I'm in full flow, and my hands are going all around the handpan so quickly, so fast, but it doesn't feel like me. I'm just hearing the sound. So I grabbed this first person that walked past where I was demonstrating it, and it's this young guy, and I just grabbed him, excuse me, do you mind? And I explained to him what I just explained to you. Just the first person that did this, and he said, yeah, I'll sit down. So he got close to the handpan, not touching it, just close to it. He rested, so everything in his body was as relaxed as possible, but he was still over the handpan. And then I started to play. So of course, then what happens, you're in this bubble, really, because the sound is coming up and over the handpan, and both are sitting there either side. So you're in this bubble of energy that's vibrating, both of us. But it was so, I connected so quickly with his energy that I was playing personally music to him. And then I suddenly realized that there's certain riffs and musical number patterns that I did that I haven't done before, and realized I was actually playing him.
Yeah.
I was playing to his tune. And and then I could feel it. It was really welling up in me, and I could really feel it. And then I looked at him, and he had like tears down his face. So I carried on, dealt with it, and then stopped. We sort of sat up, and I said, well, "How was that? You know, tell me what you feel. What, you know?" And he just went, "Wow." He just said, "Wow." He just kept saying it, you know. And I said, "You have to elaborate on that one a little bit more, please." So he just said that what an incredible tool. He said, "What? How do you get those sounds? How do you do that? You know, how do you play that?" You know? And I said, "It's not. It's I'm playing to you. It's your vibrating, and I suppose I'm playing to the speed of your vibration, to which I can change, whether you're hyper or not, or there's something going on, or there's a conflict in there of yourself, or lots of different things, really." And I just sort of looked at him and said, "Would you pay for that?" And he went, "Oh God, yeah." He said, "I'd pay for that." He said, "That's incredible healing." I said, "Oh, right, okay. Thank you very much." You know, he said, "That's incredible." And off he went, you know, hopefully somewhat changed. So over the years, something I want to do more of, but I do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Because it does things. It really does things. In meditations, I've had people lie underneath the handpans. I've made a joke and actually said, if anyone's brave enough to come and lie underneath the handpan
Yeah.
first, so their head is underneath the pan, I said, you're more than welcome to. And people do. They come as close as they can from it. The one I can really remember was quite a lot of people in one room. So you can imagine, for me, that's a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions, a lot of color, a lot of everything going around. So it can be difficult for me there, but as soon as I start playing, it all comes into order.
Yeah.
It's really strange. So I'm pushing out that sound, and I can see it all suddenly coming together. But those 4 people that lie down in front of me, I picked up on every single one. And then I spoke to them afterwards. Yes, that's actually it. That's actually, yeah.
So are you going to give us a live demo now? For those that have never experienced or heard the handpans before.
Well,
because I went to a concert in Dorset, I don't know, a few months ago, where some players were playing. I've forgotten the name of the group now, but it was amazing, really fantastic.
That's not Hang Massive.
Yeah, that's it.
Hang Massive, yeah, they're amazing. They were the first people, I think, that they play with many hangs. Oh God,
yeah, it was just, well, I've never, you know, I've played one. I mean, I did a whale trip many years ago now, and with Dr. Didge, and he brought his didgeridoos and he brought his handpan. So we were all playing to the whales, so it was lovely.
Right.
Well, Steve's going to move his. Oh, there you go. He's doing.
Yeah, I just moved the camera because you don't want to see me. There we go. So the fingertips, these fingertips here. These are the flats of the fingers. I hope you can hear the difference in the sound. As I said, I've not done this before on here, so.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot softer.
Yeah. Here we go. when you speed up the sound, you speed up the rhythm, you're then getting into the theta side of the brain, the beta side of the brain. And if I speed it up,
Wow. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah,
That
very
was
good.
lovely.
Lovely.
I could feel all sorts happening, especially when you speed it up. I could feel all sorts happening then.
oh, I just sort of gave you a quick rendition of the different sounds and the different speeds and rhythms and the techniques that you can use. There's so much on it, from the chords, from the how you touch it.
Put the camera back onto the hung while you're talking about that. Yeah. Okay, so which are the
you've
chords?
got the chords here, two at once. Then you've got the finger flats of the fingers that change the sound. And I can hit it really, just touch it really gently. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
And then this way as well. So your wrists are doing this way. There's two together, but the power of the finger of the thumb has to be equal. So you hear both notes. Here, you get the chords here. It's the same as doing that, but I'm only using it with one hand so I can play something else with the other.
Sure. So on the top there, that little knob, yeah.
That's a lovely bass sound. You've also got the dead sounds as well, which there's no wrong note. And when that's mic'd up, you get the harmonics. deaden the notes as well. It's actually I get people to have a go and touch it and have a go, because it's all about the power of the up. So I'm not hitting it. I'm not coming down on the instrument, because this is my stick. This here is my beater. By moving the stick, the beater moves. So it might look as though I'm doing this, but I wear my wrists out by doing that. So I'm actually doing this. But the vibration of it is pretty intense. It's pretty intense. And when you get
so those chords, sorry, go back onto those chords again. So they are all drilled out at different
it's
circumferences,
like the flute. Yes, they are. Yeah, I play around it. Some people play in the middle, but there's a tiny one over there. But when you've got your eyes shut, I can play it with my eyes shut now. So that is phenomenal when you get that vibration. For me, I'm off, and it's the reason I deliberately didn't get into anything. I was just giving a rendition of the sounds and the technique, and because it pulls you in. I can feel it already. I can still feel the remnants of what I just played in here, and it really does pull you in. I love it as much as my flutes. I couldn't tell you which one I prefer, to be honest.
No, I bet.
They're like your children. You can bring the camera back on your face now.
I got to the point where I started to play. And so on and so on.
That was lovely. It's very hypnotic as well, isn't it? The handpans.
Very, very hypnotic. Yeah.
Yeah. So great for your meditation. So is that on your CD?
Yeah.
Have you only done one CD at the moment?
I've done 5 altogether, but 2 are out of circulation because they're CDs. The world is changing.
Tell me about it.
I've still got CDs, but I will be going over to USB at some point. I'm not one of these people that put it up online. I'm not a really tech person, so I'm quite happy what I do and where I go and where it takes me. It's about getting people to know thyself, really, as I have. Got lost along the way and then came back to it. And I've had a couple of enlightening moments through meditation. I heavily got into meditation years ago, and it is the key to a lot of things. I teach people the 15-second rule of relaxation, and all it takes is 15 seconds. If you can't give yourself 15 seconds, then you seriously need to look in the mirror and see what's going on there. Because if we sat here now for 15 seconds silence, people say, oh, that's a really awkward silence. Again, white man speaks lots and says nothing, because we have to fulfill that silence with words. So the 15-second rule of relaxation is basically whatever you're doing through the day, you can do it as many times as you like. More the better if you can, obviously. But all the chores you see as a chore or a task, because we do live very stressful lives. And for me personally, I can't live like that. It's damaging to me personally, mentally. I can't live like that. So, single mums taking the kids to school, going shopping, doing this, including men really as well. We're supposed to be men. We're supposed to be women. We have all these emotions too. No, we can't give birth, but we have all the emotions. And so getting in touch with them is great, you know. So for instance, you just drop the kids off at school, jump in the car, you've got to go to work, you've got to go through traffic, all the red lights are, you know, they're all red, you're late, and you're rushing. And that stress on your heart and all your organs, it's not just mentally, it's physical too. So all your organs are all being stressed out. You know, they're all trying to work and produce that, you know, adrenaline to keep you going. But if you just stop for 15 seconds before you go shopping, before you got to go into that mad shop of color, you know, and part with lots of money that you know, we all know we're being ripped off, and that's even more difficult these days. Just stop 15 seconds and breathe. Literally 15 seconds. You're closing one door and opening another door. You're going shopping. You know, go through that shop, do your shopping, come back, sit in the car. You know you haven't finished because you've got to go home, unload the car, then pack it all away. It just keeps building up. So before you drive home with the shopping, 15-second rule. Just stop.
I've been putting that into practice, like you said, and I was saying to my sister about it, and it's like I've even put little notes now, 15 seconds, because you go from one thing straight into the other, you know, and I just realized how automatic it is. So I have now been pausing, and like before the show, I thought, right, do me 15 seconds. And yeah, so it's a good exercise. It's well worth trying, and it makes you realize how you go from one thing to the other. You don't pause for breath. So thank you for sharing that. So
it does help, because just like you were saying earlier about the heart monitors and ECGs, you know, bumping away like this, and through stress, all of a sudden they're getting faster and faster. And well, through the day, it's like climbing a tree, you know, but you're not going to come down. You just keep climbing. So through the day, you know, you've gone up here, and stress. By 9 o'clock in the evening, you know, I've been there myself. So all this stuff is from self-experience. You're up here by the end of the day instead of down here. And then it's bedtime. And sometimes even bedtime can be stressful to somebody because they've got so much to do, but they're tired. They've got to get to sleep. But if you do that 15-second rule through the day, you go up and down, up and down, up and down, up. You're going to stay the same level, hopefully.
That's the tip of the day.
Yeah.
Anyway, Steve, the time is swiftly moving on. So it's been an absolute delight, and hearing you play the instruments is really beautiful. So I can't thank you enough for sharing your skills, and maybe come back later and have do some more sound playing for us.
Yeah, it'll be a pleasure. And thank you for having me on. Yes, I can talk for England. I've got a lot to share. Well, can I just say one thing before I go?
Yeah, of course.
We can all be enlightened, okay? It's very easy to be enlightened and to get to that, I've got a eureka, you know, euphoria moment. It's as simple as turning off your TV. That's it. Just turn off your TV and watch your world change, because you have to make it change. Instead of, I'm going to watch that, I'm just going to sit in front of the TV and turn it off. Start feeling what happens within you. Start feeling, I could do that, or I could do that, or I could do that. Or, you know. Don't think of, that job needs to be done and that job needs to be done.
Yeah.
Take it inward. What can I do for me? You know, I'm going to read that book, or I'm going to sit for 15 seconds, actually, because I've got time instead of the TV being on. It's enlightening. But just by not having a TV, I haven't had a TV for many, many years. So I'm not programmed as much, because that's what they are.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Well, we look forward to you coming down to Dorset to do a flute workshop. So we're gonna put that out, and we'll organise something. So I may finally get my flute.
I do have a drone here. I'll bring the drone for you.
All right, brilliant. That'd be brilliant. All right. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for everybody listening. And I hope you enjoyed today's show.
I have learnt one thing today. It's called doodling.
Yeah.
Doodling.
No, you've got to do oodles of doodles.
Doodles, yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's a pair of suggestion. You know, if you say to a child,
Lovely.
"Don't slam the door," I mean, you've just sent them a picture of slamming the door. So your verbal instructions is "Don't slam the door," but the actual picture that you've telegraphically, boom, Wi-Fi to them, they've seen.
Yeah, I tell people when I teach to leave the flute on top of the fridge in their kitchen. Kitchens are great acoustics places, and leave the flute on top of the fridge, because what do we do when we turn on the kettle and make a cup of tea? We always find some mundane task to do in the kitchen, because we all know the kettle's only going to take a minute, or a minute and a half. Well, pick up your flute and play those sounds just for a minute. Straight away you're relaxing yourself by breathing and hearing that sound. And hopefully you'll put the kettle on now more and more as you're getting more and more doodling with the flute.
Yeah, but don't forget there's comfort food in the fridge. It's called chocolate.
Oh.
Not in my fridge.
I've got a little bookkeeper and she raids my pantry and bloody fridge. Anyway, that's good. Okay, stand by. We're just going to end the broadcast. Thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure to come on the wireless.
Thank you very much, and anyone who's listening, thank you for listening.
Yeah. Bless you.